The room is bathed in a warm, dim light, exuding an air of both luxury and danger. Jimin, 25, sharp features, dressed in a tailored suit, leans against a mahogany table, fingers tapping rhythmically. Sung-ha, 28, loyal and discreet, stands across from him. Sung-ha spreads a series of files and profiles on the table. Jimin scans the documents, a predatory glint in his eyes. Sung-ha, the candidates for the next seducer position, boss. The best of the best. Jimin smirks, intrigued. Jimin, impress me, Sung-ha. Sung-ha goes through the profiles, providing quick assessments. Sung-ha, we've got talent, loyalty, and a touch of ruthlessness. Ready for the audition at 8 tonight? Jimin nods, his mind already calculating. Jimin, handpick the most promising ones. I want to meet them personally. Sung-ha nods, understanding the unspoken intensity in Jimin's gaze. Sung-ha concludes his briefing, and just as Jimin is about to dismiss him, the living hall's entrance door swings open. YN, alluring, dressed in a stunning attire, strides in, commanding attention. YN, smiling, good evening, gentlemen. Am I interrupting something important? Jimin smirks, captivated by YN's entrance. Jimin and Sung-ha are momentarily taken aback by YN's sudden entrance. Jimin, raising an eyebrow, YN, what a pleasant surprise. YN, teasing, I heard you were discussing something interesting. Mind if I join? Jimin, amused, nods, giving Sung-ha a look that conveys they'll continue later. YN, smiling, Jimin, how about dinner tonight? I'll pick you up at 8. Jimin hesitates, exchanging a quick glance with Sung-ha. Sung-ha interjects, sensing the need to redirect YN's plans. Sung-ha, apologetic, I'm afraid, YN, that won't be possible. Boss has important business tonight. Jimin cuts him off, realizing Sung-ha might reveal more than necessary. Jimin, abruptly, Sung-ha, that's enough. YN, can we do this tomorrow? YN raises an eyebrow, intrigued. YN presses further, sensing something is amiss. YN, sincerely, what's so important that Jimin is canceling our dinner plans? Jimin, guarded, tries to come up with a plausible excuse. Jimin, unwilling to reveal the truth, crafts a convincing lie. Jimin, somberly, I have a meeting with a VIP regarding a crucial gun deal. They have to leave tonight after the meeting. But I promise, we'll spend the entire day together tomorrow. YN, though disappointed, nods understandingly. Jimin, taken aback by YN's candid admission, watches as she turns to leave. Jimin, softly, YN, wait. YN stops but doesn't turn around, avoiding eye contact. Jimin, confused, why are you leaving so soon? You just got here. YN, resigned, I just need some time alone, Jimin. It's clear no one has time for me here, especially you. Jimin feels a pang of guilt. He steps closer to YN, trying to bridge the emotional gap. Jimin, sincere, YN, you know it's not like that. Things are just hectic right now. YN finally turns to face him, her eyes revealing a mix of hurt and frustration. YN, bitterly, hectic, Jimin? You always have time for Sung-ha and your business, but when it comes to me. Jimin, realizing the impact of his choices, attempts to explain. Jimin, softly, it's not about not having time for you. You know how crucial these deals are for the gang. YN, cutting him off, it's always about the gang, isn't it? What about us, Jimin? Jimin is left momentarily speechless, grappling with the weight of YN's words. YN takes a step back, her expression hardening. YN, resolute, I just need some time alone. If you can't make time for me, then... She doesn't finish her sentence. With a final, lingering glance, YN turns and walks away, leaving Jimin standing in the dimly lit living hall. Sung-ha, observant and perceptive, watches YN leave. Once she's out of earshot, he turns to Jimin, a curious expression on his face. Sung-ha, raising an eyebrow, boss, is there something going on between you and Miss YN? Jimin, caught off guard, looks at Sung-ha with a hint of surprise. Jimin, chuckling, what? No, Sung-ha. YN is my best friend from childhood. Sung-ha isn't convinced, his eyes narrowing. Sung-ha, skeptical, best friend, huh? She doesn't act like just a friend, boss. Always by your side, looking at you like. Jimin cuts him off, maintaining his casual demeanor. Jimin, smiling, Sung-ha, she's always been like that. It's just how we are. Sung-ha smirks, not buying it. Sung-ha, teasing, she behaves more like a girlfriend, boss. And you pamper her like one. Jimin rolls his eyes, dismissing the notion. Jimin, scoffing, you read too much into things, Sung-ha. YN and I have an understanding, that's all. Sung-ha smirks knowingly, leaving Jimin to ponder the unspoken dynamics of his relationship with YN. The underground club pulses with energy, neon lights casting shadows on the dancing figures. Sung-ha, meticulously dressed, surveys the scene, ensuring everything is in order for the auditions. Jimin enters with his gang, an air of authority accompanying them. The crowd parts as they make their way to the VIP section. Jimin takes a seat, his eyes scanning the room. Sung-ha, approaching, boss, everything is set for the auditions. Jimin, nodding, good. Let the show begin. The auditions unfold, each candidate vying for a coveted position in the seducer role. The atmosphere is charged with anticipation. Jimin, shrouded in the shadows of the VIP section, observes the auditions. Sung-ha stands by, awaiting his cues. Sung-ha, whispering, boss, any favorites? Jimin, smirking, keep an eye on the one in red. She's got potential. Sung-ha nods, signaling to his team to take note. As the auditions near their end, the selected candidates stand before Jimin for the final assessment. Jimin, impressed, you, in the red. What's your name? Candidate, nervously, Ji-yeon, sir. Jimin nods, his gaze lingering on Ji-yeon. The auditions conclude, and Jimin, satisfied with his selections, rises from his seat. Jimin, looking at Sung-ha, arrange a meeting with the new recruits tomorrow. I want to brief them personally. Sung-ha nods, already making arrangements. Meanwhile, YN and her friends arrive at the club. The vibrant atmosphere captures their attention, and they decide to join the festivities for a night of fun. From a distance, YN spots Jimin in the VIP section. Her eyes narrow as she observes the scene, realizing the nature of the event. Conflicted emotions play on her face. YN, feeling a mix of disappointment and frustration, watches as Jimin concludes the auditions and rises from his seat. Kungmi, noticing YN's expression, everything okay? YN, nodding, forcing a smile, yeah, just not feeling it tonight. I'll catch you guys later. YN leaves the club, her friends exchanging puzzled glances. YN stands in the dimly lit alley, the distant sounds of the club muffled. She takes a deep breath, trying to compose herself. Memories of the conversation about the dinner plans and Jimin's sudden change of schedule replay in YN's mind. YN, without confronting Jimin, makes a decision. She heads into the night, leaving the club behind. Next day. YN, surrounded by the silence of her dimly lit room, paces back and forth. The weight of the previous night's events bears down on her, and she wrestles with her emotions. YN, whispering to herself, what was he thinking? A VIP meeting, at a club? It doesn't make any sense. Her phone buzzes again with Jimin's calls, but YN refuses to answer. She walks to the window, staring out at the city below. YN, muttering, maybe I overreacted. But he could have explained. Instead, he chose secrecy. She takes a deep breath, trying to quell the conflicting thoughts. As the phone continues to ring, YN hesitates, caught in the crossfire of her feelings. She finally sits on the edge of the bed, contemplating whether to confront Jimin or let the silence linger. The memory of Jimin in the VIP section, surrounded by the auditions, replays in YN's mind. Her phone vibrates again, a persistent reminder of Jimin's attempts to reach her. YN takes a deep breath, grappling with her inner turmoil. YN, sighing, should I just answer? What if he has a reasonable explanation? She glances at her phone, contemplating whether to break the silence that now separates them. The persistent knocking on Hyen's door interrupts the heavy silence of her room. Reluctantly, she gets up and opens it. Jimin stands in the doorway, concern etched on his face. Jimin, softly, Hyen, we need to talk. Hyen says nothing, avoiding eye contact, and turns away. Jimin steps into the room. Jimin, worried, Hyen, what happened? Why are you avoiding me? Hyen doesn't respond, choosing instead to bury her face in the duvet on her bed. Jimin, earnestly, talk to me, Hyen. I hate seeing you like this. Silence lingers in the room. Jimin takes a step closer. Jimin sits down beside Hyen, his gaze fixed on her huddled form. Jimin, softly, whatever it is, we can work through it. You're important to me, Hyen. Hyen mumbles something into the duvet, her words muffled. Jimin, leaning in, what was that? Hyen finally lifts her face from the duvet, revealing puffy eyes and a frown. Hyen, slightly irritated, what happened at your meeting last night, Jimin? Jimin, taken aback by the sudden change in topic, hesitates. Jimin, trying to gauge Hyen's mood, it was just a business meeting, Hyen. Nothing unusual. Hyen narrows her eyes, studying Jimin's face for any signs of deception. Hyen, cutting through, don't play games with me, Jimin. What kind of business meeting happens in a club with additions? Jimin's expression shifts, realizing Hyen had witnessed the events at the club. Jimin, it was a recruitment event for a specific position in the gang. I needed to be there to make the final selections. Hyen, still not fully satisfied, remains silent, her eyes probing Jimin's. Hyen, sarcastically, a recruitment event? In a club? Jimin sighs, realizing the gravity of the situation. Jimin, truthfully, I should have told you, Hyen. I'm sorry for not being upfront. Hyen, still visibly upset, looks away. Hyen, softly, I just wish you'd trust me enough to be honest. Jimin, understanding the weight of his actions, takes a moment before responding. Jimin, earnestly, I do trust you, Hyen. Sometimes the lines get blurred in this world we live in. The tension in the room is palpable as Hyen and Jimin navigate the fragile territory of trust and honesty. Hyen, looking away, blurred lines or not, Jimin, I deserve to know. I shouldn't have to find out by accident. Jimin, realizing the impact of his choices, sits in silence for a moment. Jimin, softly, you're right, Hyen. I should have been honest from the beginning. I'll do better. Hyen doesn't respond immediately. She takes a deep breath, contemplating her next words. Hyen, looking at Jimin, it felt like you were hiding something from me, and that hurts, Jimin. Jimin reaches out, gently placing a hand on Hyen's shoulder. Jimin, sincerely, I never want you to feel that way, Hyen. You mean more to me than anything. Hyen looks at Jimin, her expression softening as the weight of the moment hangs in the air. Hyen, whispering, so, what happens now? Jimin, determined, now, we talk. About everything. No more secrets. Hyen nods, a glimmer of hope returning to her eyes. Hyen, teasing, and no more recruitment events in clubs? Jimin chuckles, a genuine smile breaking through the tension. Jimin, softly, promise. Jimin, curious, Hyen, why are you acting so jealous? Hyen, her frustration mounting, defends herself. Hyen, angry, I'm not jealous, Jimin. I'm angry because you lied to me. Hyen starts to turn away, intending to leave the room, but Jimin intervenes. Jimin grabs Hyen's hand, preventing her from leaving. He turns her around, pinning her gently against the wall. Jimin, softly, you can't just walk away, Hyen. We need to talk about this. Hyen, frustrated, talk? We've been talking, and all I get are half-truths and excuses. Jimin's gaze intensifies as he speaks. Jimin, looking into Hyen's eyes, I can see it, Hyen. You're jealous. Hyen, defiantly, I'm not jealous, Jimin. I'm hurt. There's a difference. Jimin, maintaining his grip on her hand, leans in closer. Jimin, smirking, hurt? Or maybe a little bit of both. YN, angry, don't turn this around on me. You lied. Jimin's expression softens, and he loosens his hold on YN's hand. Jimin, sincerely, I messed up, YN. I should have been honest from the beginning. YN, resolute, that doesn't change the fact that you hid things from me. Jimin releases YN, allowing her some space. YN, feeling the weight of the emotional confrontation, takes a step back. Jimin, earnestly, I can see you're upset, YN. And avoiding my calls since morning? That's more than just being hurt. YN, whispering, maybe I am a little jealous, Jimin. But it's not just that. It's a lie. Jimin, looking into YN's eyes, I've never been good with words when it comes to feelings. But what I do know is that the thought of losing you terrifies me. YN, surprised by Jimin's vulnerability, meets his gaze. YN, softening, Jimin, Jimin gently places a finger on YN's lips, silencing her. Jimin, sincerely, let me finish. I know I've made mistakes, and I'm sorry for that. But, YN, you're not just my best friend from childhood. You're the one person who sees through the layers, who challenges me, and who I can't imagine my life without. YN, moved by Jimin's words, listens intently. Jimin, softly, maybe it took this mess for me to realize, but I don't want to just be your best friend. I want to be the person you can rely on, share everything with, and build a future alongside. Jimin's admission hangs in the air, and YN is left momentarily speechless. Jimin, looking into YN's eyes, I love you, YN. And not just as a friend. I love you in a way that words can't fully capture. The room is filled with the weight of Jimin's confession, the vulnerability of the powerful Mafia king laid bare before the person who matters most. YN, softly, Jimin. YN, smiling, you couldn't have picked a more complicated way to confess, could you? Jimin, relieved by YN's smile, chuckles nervously. Jimin, sincerely, complicated seems to be my style. YN steps closer to Jimin, her expression softening. YN, teasingly, you know, you could have just said, I love you without all the drama. Jimin smiles, a warmth in his eyes. Jimin, leaning in, I guess I like keeping you on your toes. Jimin leans in, capturing YN's lips in a tender kiss, sealing their newfound understanding.